Yes. There you go.
Yeah, I'm making my little announcement. Oh, hej NTS. Hej Trädfursten. That's a Swedish name. Lord of the Trees, essentially. All right. Yeah, it's always nice to try to break in and out of Swedish and English, just like that, in language. So with me on the line, I have Marcel Fale. Is that a fair pronunciation? You can complete it.
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
That was perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Hello,
And I
everybody.
think you guys can actually hear Marcel quite okay. I hope. Let me know.
Let me test that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're hearing you okay. Do you have the chat open so you can see what they're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, in a second. Yeah, there it is.
Cool, cool. So let me just check if we have some people looking beyond. Yeah, we have a couple of people around already. So I'll just start with a little bit of explanation of what Membrane is. I brought up their site and they have a delightful little animation here. But yeah, Membrane framework is a way of dealing with some of the trickiest stuff in at least web development and generally in development, which is mangling video into the right formats, mangling audio into the right formats, and generally streaming media around the place, streaming or processing media around the place. And they've built a sort of high-level framework, including a bunch of connections to the more low-level stuff, where you can essentially build pipelines of what you want your media things to do. And I think it's a super useful project. I haven't had a chance to use it for anything real yet, and but it's been one of those things. Like, I've intended to do blog posts, I have intended to do all sorts of things, but I haven't gotten to it yet. And the live stream is a pretty decent place to just get going with it. So to prep, just so that this wouldn't be entirely debugging, I set up a basic example of something that's useful to do and something that's a little bit interesting to do, so we have something to work off of. So both me and Marcel have this, and it's available on the GitHub. So did you get a feeling for what this pipeline does, Marcel?
Yeah, I looked into it. So it's converting an audio file, basically, or it records audio from your computer and stores it into a physical file, right?
Yeah, so it grabs, so we can actually go through this file. So this is a membrane pipeline. And just to briefly look at our mix EXS, and I don't know why Elixir LS hates my mix files, it just does. It's really angry all the time. But membrane core, that does all the important stuff and none of the stuff you need to get done in the end. Membrane file plugin deals with files. port audio deals with audio devices on your machine, and this one should work on sort of Windows, Mac, and Linux. I don't know if Membrane supports all of those, but Port Audio, which is an open source project.
So can I ask a question
Yeah.
regarding the port audio thing? So the first time I played with Membrane, I actually was playing some sound in the terminal using port audio, which is a playback thing for me. So how did that work actually?
So
what is it? I mean,
yeah,
you know,
it provides, as far as I understand it, it provides a normalized interface or a generalized interface for audio devices. So you can get data from audio devices and you can put data into audio devices, and you can do it
yeah.
with a single interface across Windows, Mac, and Linux, which
So it's like a super low level thing, and you can start and stop it. Because I was like, where is this audio coming from right now? I'm in my terminal,
yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, so it can talk to your input and output devices essentially,
Mm-hmm. Nice.
which is incredibly useful.
Yeah. Yeah, love it.
And then there's Membrane FFmpeg I think that's software resample, SW resample plugin. MP3 MAD plugin. We're not using that currently in this project, but it was part of the example I started off of. MP3 lame plugin. So MAD is an MPEG audio decoder, and lame can actually do encoding, which is important. And then we have element T, and if you know the Unix command T, that can let you split off sort of standard input into two different files, or into a file and a standard out, or something like that. And this similarly splits a media stream. It can split it into more than one, I think, but we're using one where it will have sort of one that's real time essentially, and one that is a copy. And I figure we'll get into why I chose that one. Not that I know that much, it just seemed like the right choice. But these different dependencies give us a few different things. So here we have the file module, we have the FFmpeg module, we have the MP3 MAD, MP3 lame, port audio, and time. I'm not sure we're using time for anything. It's just I got a few things from the examples. We set up our pipeline by using use membrane, and it's a behavior. So that brings in a bunch of nice plumbing for us. And then we implement a handle init. And I've decided that it will take an output directory. And then I make sure the output directory exists. And then we define some children. And these are different sort of stages in our pipeline that we name. So I name this one mic input, and that's a port audio source. And if you don't provide any configuration to port audio source, you will get your default input. So there's a source and there's a sink. That's you can see down here, file sync. So there's a bunch of different concepts around Membrane, and they have a guide that I would recommend reading if you want to work with it, which goes through some of these things, and it will go down into the concepts of the different elements, pipelines, bins. But essentially a source is something you get a stream from, and a sink is something you put a stream into. And then they have the concept of caps, which is how you handle compatibility. So what do you get from port audio source? You get a very raw audio stream. And the next one we handle is a converter. So that's an FFmpeg software resample converter struct that we want input caps to do raw, 2-channel, and this format is what I found out port audio source gives us. So S16LE. I have no idea what it is, but It's a format for audio. I think it's very raw, and we get it at this sample rate. But those are the defaults for port audio. So we set up an input cap to receive that. Then we have the output caps. So when I didn't have the converter in place, I found out roughly down here when I wanted to encode myself an MP3 file that it could not receive S16LE at 48,000. So it wanted S32LE at 44,100. So I looked around for some examples of conversion or resampling and found them. And this is how you do it. And then I call it a splitter because I think that's more clear than a T. But I guess it's a T intersection or like a T division. So then we have the option of splitting it, and we define an encoder that can encode to using lame, and lame only encodes to MP3, so that's an MP3 encoder. I also defined a raw output file sync, so that will take this format, whatever that is, and just write it as a raw file. And this would take an encoded output and write it as an MP3 file.
So is that what this splitter is for in this case, that you have two different files? One is the original raw file and one is the encoded file, right?
Yeah.
Is that what's being split?
Yeah, exactly. So
the intersection.
Then we do this links. So we link the mic input to the converter, so it resamples, and then to the splitter. And arguably, we could put the converter before the encoder, after the copy, or after the splitting. But we do it this way. So it goes resampled into the splitter. Then we have the splitter. That one has multiple outs. So we go, okay, via out, and it has because of the type T master, that one always has a master and a copy. So we go, okay, we take the master one, the raw live high priority one, and we throw that into raw output. This could also, if I put this into a port audio sync, we would find out if I have good enough headphones or if I have some leakage. Because if I do have some leakage, we would get feedback. So I could just pipe this straight out into an audio device again. That would be a port audio.sync. But now we're throwing it at a file.sync, which will turn into a file on disk. Then we have the splitter via out copy. That goes to to the encoder. And the encoder is connected to the encoded output, which will mean that it will be pushed out to the out.mp3. So running this, let's start a console, shall we?
And via out I know that elements, or in this case children, have the concept of pads, which are like the connector of ins and outs. Is that how you name a pad? Is that because you give it master and copy? So that's a definition of one of those pads, right?
Yeah, so by default, the T master has a master and a copy pad.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we instantiate a splitter 2, it would also have a master and a copy. Mm-hmm. While I believe there are elements as well where you say, okay, I need this. We can actually look at that. We can look at membrane T element. And I should be finding the hex docs for that. Also some pictures of pipes. So if we look at the parallel one, I believe that one does stuff a bit differently. So let's see, maybe jump to the code. I find that almost more useful to look at. Usually the tests are a good idea for seeing how it works. Oh, here we have an example. So this one does T parallel. I'm not sure. Let's see. This element has dynamic output paths working in pull mode. Packets are forwarded only when all output paths send demands, which means that the slowest output path dictates the speed of processing data. Playing this pipeline should result in copying the source file to all destination file syncs. So this is, for example, good if you want to do a bunch of parallel processing. But a bit less good if you're live, for example. Then I would probably see that this master copy thing is more important, because then I believe the copy basically plays catch up. But yeah, I don't know it well enough to say for certain exactly what you should be doing. So to make these easier to call, I have made this module, which has the record to file function and the stop to file. Might as well boost my font size a little bit.
Context.
What's that?
I said the almighty context.
Yeah, essentially, it's a module. The idea of contexts in Phoenix, like, I think it introduces a bit more confusion than it resolves sometimes.
Yeah, I think so.
It's not a bad idea just because everything else has a name, like a controller and a schema and a change, and like, but what's this then? Like, it's a module. It's a module. It does things. But yeah. So having a terminology for what they are is sort of helpful. But then again, I wouldn't call it a context if we're working in a library. So why is it a context in this case? But yeah, it's just some wrapping around the logic. And you can see the remains of a previous run here. But if I do this, so my output to directory, and now like speaking for a bit, there's a bunch of stuff being done, and let's see, I should have, yeah, that's my PID. So that's my PID, and now it has probably recorded me talking for a little bit. At least that worked last time. So then I just called stop to file, and then it does some cleaning.
So it was recording the whole time, right?
Yeah, from me starting it, because I set it up and then I go play.
There's the play. Yeah. Missed that. Okay, got it.
And here's 2 files. And we can actually take a look at those. Okay, I figured that would open in Finder somewhere. Okay, that was just slow. That's like speaking for a bit. There's a bunch of stuff being done. So this is playback of me talking over playback of me talking. This must be a great stream experience. But yeah, essentially I just recorded MP3 audio from my microphone, which is a neat thing to be able to do. And then I have this raw file as well, which I'm really curious about what you can do with. So we can see that the MP3 is 664 kilobytes, and the raw audio is 9.8 megs. There's a fair bit of difference in encoding to MP3s. And this is why MP3s enabled the future of music and piracy. It actually did reduce sizes a lot.
It's very cool. I mean, it's just like 30 lines of code basically, and it's super readable. I like the DSL. I like how that works. And once you get into the flow of things, it's really easy to understand and set up. I think the most challenging thing I came across so far is like having an overview of what packages there are. And there's
Yeah, and
dozens and
they
dozens of
provide a small
things.
overview, but it just is not enough. So for me, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah. So
know.
understand. I mean, what is for what?
Yeah,
What do you need to use for? Do you use port audio source or what? And then the other thing is the terminology. I mean, the converter in this case would be a filter, right? Um, that's
yeah,
what they call a filter in the elements.
yeah.
So I'm
Maybe I don't
wrapping
know.
my head around that
So
because it has a filter is an element that has ins and outs.
yeah, so I
What I
guess it's
read, and that's
essentially a
what that does,
filter.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of terminology. Some of it I find makes a lot of sense. So I think caps nicely, if you think of it as the ends of a tool, or
Mhm.
yeah, things that need to fit together. That sort of explains why you can't just port audio source and then
Oh,
push that straight into
you know what
the
that
lame
is?
encoder, because they don't fit.
Isn't caps, because I saw that filters or elements have capabilities. Is that not the short for
Yeah, that
capabilities in
might
that
be
case?
it. I think
Yeah.
of it more
Yeah, like an end of a
like the
yeah.
bit,
Got it.
or
Mhm.
yeah, the cap on something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can see here there's a bunch of different plugins, and there's sort of the real timer plugin, limiting playback speed to real time according to buffers, timestamps, funnel plugin. There's something about jitter, and some of this stuff is really important if you're trying to do serious live streaming. I'm a little bit curious to see how hard it would be to replicate the parts of Twitch I need with this. And then you get into stuff like RTP, where they support the real-time protocol, I think it's just called, where you, so for example, OBS, which I'm using to stream to Twitch right now, I believe that sends RTPS to just send the streaming data to Twitch. And you could make something that either streams to, for example, Twitch with this, or you could build something that can receive such a stream and do things with it, show it, distribute it, encode it.
There's
There's so many
a
options.
Medium article
Yeah.
how they built that, how they built the Twitch clone using that, which gives you just like a high level overview of which packages have been used and stuff. It's pretty interesting,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what choices they made for the ports and stuff. It's on Medium somewhere.
Yeah, it
I'll put this
definitely
in the
also
chat
gives
quick.
some insight into sort of what parts you need in your pipeline for that use case. They also get into WebRTC a lot, which I do want to try at some point with this. Hey, Pasta. Friend from the US just dropped by. Yeah, that's a good link right there.
It gives you an
This
idea about like where to put things, like which packages to use, and the jitter package and all that kind of stuff,
yeah,
and the architectural choices using RTP, RTSP,
yeah.
and so on and so forth. So it's
Too
pretty
bad
cool.
it's on Medium.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
um, but yeah, this article is super useful. And I wonder if scissors is one we should be toying with, or oh yeah, and this is for so you can post
Making copy.
thumbnails.
Mhm.
I believe there might also be a module that can deal with so taking from audio and just so maybe common audio mix, experimental. That's encouraging. So something I would like to do is to pull information about the current let's call it noise level, but if there is sound right now, essentially. That's something I would like, and I believe there is a way to do it. I believe I've seen it at some point, but heck if I remember. So this one can mix tracks. I can see how that's useful. All of their packages are also in their repo here. So let's see, RTP, retriever and player, audiometer. That's what we need. Oh, that didn't have an example. Please have a test. Peak meter. Okay, so testing pipeline source, testing sync. I'm not entirely sure on how to use this from this information.
So I think it gives you a notification as far as I see it there. Pipeline notified. It says underrun of the peak.
Okay.
What that means, but
we can start by installing it. Let's see what's the latest version, because I know the readmes are not always up to date on that. 0.4. Okay.
So that thing probably just, I mean, it gives you capabilities of measuring after the fact, I would say, right? So after you started already recording, so it's not like something you would use to show the meters in a web interface or something like that.
Well, I believe it definitely could, because I think it will sample and send you messages while it's running, which would mean that there's a reason why this is incidentally just happens to be a live view project.
Got it. Okay, that's a go. Got it.
So peak meter, yeah, we'll see how far we get. Computes peaks in each channel of the given signal at regular time intervals, regardless if it receives data or not. It uses Erlang timer send interval, which might not provide perfect accuracy. I don't really care about perfect accuracy, so that's fine. It has the caps for raw, which is good. We can deal with that. And it has a default interval of 50 millisecond. Sure, let's go with that, see if that holds up. And then it's mostly like, where do we want those messages, I guess. It will periodically emit notifications of the following format: audiometer, underrun, and audiometer measurements. So I'm skimming pretty hard here. Is there any way to tell it where to send the messages? Or, oh, maybe the pipeline using this one will probably get the message.
I mean the output, right? That.
So I wonder, we should probably be able to see in the tests how that fares, but did you see anything that indicated where the messages go?
Well, I think we should be able to connect something to the output, and then, but is there not like this standard struct that these things send around, and then you can grab it with whatever?
I'm not sure. So, okay, this has a helper, test helper. Well, wait, what test helper was it using? Was that probably a membrane general test helper? Yeah, membrane testing. So it has assert pipeline notified, but it says the pipeline receives a notification. So if pipelines can receive notifications, I bet those are relying messages, just normal, right? Or do you know of any?
No.
Oh.
No.
So without going too far, well, I can actually open the dependency. I don't think you can follow me into my deps because they're in git ignore, and those you're not allowed in there because of reasons.
Yeah, but I see it on stream.
Oh, yeah.
On another window.
Then again, I don't think I get the testing stuff in the package necessarily. Yeah, maybe. Pipeline. Yeah, okay. Let's just give it a bash. So let's call it the audiometer because that seems like a fine name for it. So that's membrane.audiometer. That's the example. Membrane audiometer, peak meter. Let's alias that one. Peak meters is plenty long enough for me to type. There we go. And my thinking is we can do that straight ahead after, since it does a raw, it should just be to audiometer. And now I would expect that to send something we can handle info, honestly. Was it audiometer, the message for shape, right? Yeah. And then something.
And they got the measurement tuple. Okay. Yeah, okay, whatever something is.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm assuming this behaves mostly like a gen server. I would be surprised otherwise. So I'll inspect something. Let's see if that works. I'm making a lot of assumptions.
Assumption-driven development.
Oh yeah. That's how you get anywhere in life. That's also how fires get started, but hey. So any of you watching, do go ahead and ask questions. I look at the chat occasionally, so there's any concerns, or if you have better ideas than I do about how to work this stuff, feel free.
And there's a surprise. It is working, but why?
So let's do output 3. Yeah. Record to file.
Record to file. Yeah. All right. Didn't crash.
No. Yeah. No. I don't feel like it's sending those notifications to where I expected because I'm not seeing a bunch of logging. But let's. You had some kind of theory about it, maybe.
Yeah, I was just looking on another screen how these events could be received, but it looked good what you did. Now I'm just browsing the debug output. There's a lot of info. And
yeah, so media stop to file. Yeah. So I never saw any audiometer info. So I'm very, very curious about where that goes. But let's actually look if we can see something from in this peak meter code. Handle prepared to playing, handle prepared to stop, handle demand, output size buffers, handle process input, new state, buffer, redemand, handle tick. Yeah. So then it will notify underrun. So
so the default value for the interval seems pretty high.
50 millisecond?
No. Is that milliseconds? It says in the documentation, like, how many zeros is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 zeros. Okay, that's documentation. It says something else. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just curious where these notifications go. So the way they do these notifications is just by doing handle tick and OK notify. So I'm betting that's handled in the membrane core as part of membrane pipeline. So I want to take a look, because you shouldn't be afraid of looking at the code. Usually it explains what it's doing. So let's just go notify. Okay, that's not helpful. Let's check. Membrane core bin action handler and core element action handler. Core lib membrane element action. All right, let's see this action handler of yours then. What did it do? What did it do? Send notification, yeah? Not unexpected. Membrane logger. Dropping notification. Yeah, okay, so state watcher nil, but if there is a watcher, it will do message send, message dispatcher. Is that involved? So what's a watcher and how do I set one up? Let's see, membrane, framework, watcher. There might be something in the docs about this, but I haven't seen it. So, pipelines guide, watcher. During the application execution, elements may want to signal some events. For that purpose, they send a notification to their watcher, which in most cases is a pipeline. A pipeline can also be used as a gateway to an element. Okay. Yeah, so I feel like they skimmed across some fairly important information in there.
Yeah, trying to find that.
More advanced pipelines. Top. Watch, no. Okay, so I think we have the roughly right idea of what this is, but not entirely sure how to wield it.
What did you use for the handler, the event handler? But there's also
handle info.
There's also handle notification. Wait, not sure if that is an
handle
older
event
documentation.
is certainly a thing here as well. But does it provide a handle notification callback or something?
So wait, I'm in an older documentation right now. Maybe that was one.
That might be where the fun is, though. So if I look at 52 here, do handle notification, notify notification. And that will look for a watcher in the state, but we didn't get any debug logging of the watcher being undefined either, I don't think.
So yeah, there's a membrane parent handle notification callback.
Okay. So I should be able to just implement that.
Yeah, change the handle info to handle notification, see if we get something.
Handle notification. I wonder, let's see, maybe this action handler will tell me a little bit, because I doubt it will send the entire state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a notification, then it takes the element from that notification. So it probably pattern matches on wherever that notification is coming from.
Let's
and then the
grab all
context and the state.
notifications then.
Yeah. Just like that.
Okay. And maybe for good measure, let's do that.
Debugging 101.
Yeah, this is elite.
Nice style.
So, undefined function something. Yeah, okay. It compiled, it must be perfect. And this time I should actually just do this. I have to think about it later. Okay, so I'm talking, but I'm not getting any inspects, so I bet it does not work as we hoped. Which is pretty okay. I think what we're missing is how to initiate a watcher and what that means. Because there's certainly things going on with the notification system. So if we look at the action handler, line 52.
Yeah, sends a message to a watcher. Yeah.
It will do send notification, and then it will pattern match on, like, if watcher is nil, then it will drop the notification. But if it's set to something, it will send that to the watcher. And then let's see.
I thought the watcher is the pipeline it's running in.
Okay, by default it will be set up to be the pipeline. So, okay, you mentioned the audiometer and timing. So let's try setting the actual interval. So that's milliseconds, so let's see, every half a second or so then. Recompile. Record. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in particular. Stopping. So now we're at the debugging phase of the stream. Very much at the debugging end of the stream. Yeah, this is always tricky. So there's a lot of docs for Membrane, and I think they've done a decent enough job to provide docs, but there's just so much stuff. So it is non-trivial to cover the API surface with documentation, and I don't like complaining about docs. I don't think this is perfect coverage by any stretch, but I also think that Oh, wait, hold on. I've been looking at the main membrane framework guide, but this is the membrane core documentation. This might be very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's why I found the handle notification callbacks. So see that down if you
Okay.
scroll to the pipeline, yeah.
So just on the pipeline module, and then
Wait,
so callbacks, handle notification, notification element context state. So we would definitely be missing that one because it takes 4.
four arguments. Yeah.
So notification element context, that's a good word, doesn't mean a thing.
And they're not optional. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's expected to return callback return T, which is, yeah, okay, okay is fine, which I will happily provide. And then just log this notification as an IO inspect, recompile, start the recording. Errors, that's interesting. Invalid value returned from handle notification. Okay, did I misread
Okay, that's good. Good. Wait.
I thought
Needs a callback return, and the callback return is
should be okay to
tuple. No, it's a tuple. It's not just okay.
Oh yeah, it's a tuple
with okay, and then
wait, it can return an okay error tuple?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It's like, so okay, it has an okay, definitely.
That's
And
wild.
then there's another okay, and then there's okay.
So no, it can return a single item tuple? No, am I misreading this?
No, I don't see a single item tuple.
The first part, okay, or have never in my life seen this. I have to try it because that's wild. If that's no, thank you. That didn't work. Invalid value returned. State T.
Yeah, send
yeah, okay.
Yeah, send the state. It's a okay and the state. It's yeah, that's what.
That's very reasonable.
Thank you.
Thank you, McBull. You're better at parsing type specs than I am, clearly. Audiometer out and underrun, and now I'm speaking, and you could see at moments there were things, and then something crashed.
Yeah, because they're not strings, and you probably just
toilet overflow.
Probably not. Yeah. Toilet over what?
The toilet overflowed. I don't know what that means, but
yeah,
let's
so
only match the ones we actually want.
Yeah.
So I think there was the message was measurement.
I think that's a tuple too. Measurement, comma, measurement, right?
Yeah, I think so. I was gonna actually check because yeah, measurement and then measurement. So then I skip all the underruns. Which, if I want to space out sort of and make a nice graphic out of it, then I would need to know. I might need to know the underruns, but yeah, I imagine the context might actually contain something like the timestamp or whatever. Yeah, so
that way you could draw some graphic or create a video like these YouTube videos that are just reacting to music or whatever.
Yep.
Add an MP3, some fancy graphic stuff based on the measurements.
So let's see. No function clause matching in stream file handle notification 4. Yeah, okay, it's getting the underrun audiometer as well. And it expects me to handle it, so let's do that. So that's okay. State, just doing nothing. underrun. Doesn't compile, so I screwed something up. Yeah, too many curlies. Is failing very quickly now, which I find interesting. Last message, underrun. What was the problem? No function clause matching handle notification.
Oh, it's the other way around. Handle notification, underrun, and then audio meter. What?
No. Was it?
Oh, that's what it says.
Let's see. Yeah, okay. That's
the other way around, right?
Yeah. It doesn't even look like...
Maybe it's a general thing.
Yeah, I think underruns are a thing with, like, has something to do with buffers or whatever. It's like, whatever the notification is, I don't care about it. If it's not...
Yeah, but put it underneath that one.
Oh, right. That will not be helpful.
Can't get all.
I'm a professional. Okay, so let's see. Now I'm talking again. Will we be getting any notifications for that? I'm not seeing any.
Huh.
I'm a little bit surprised, but maybe I failed to recompile it. I just interrupted. I might have interrupted it mid-compile or something, so I'm not convinced it did the thing. Whoop, whoop. Let's see. I'm talking. I'm talking here. And maybe I need to keep the sound going for a little bit. No, okay. I was hoping. So it felt like it was triggering some measurements earlier on. I will shrink the interval back to sort of 50. Let's assume they have a good default. I like that Elixir LS feels the need to recompile element T every time.
There
okay, now things were happening.
That was a warning thing.
Oh, wait, maybe I didn't even shut the previous one down. Let's recompile.
Yeah, that was
record
another
file.
toilet overflow.
Boop, 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 boop. Doop, 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 doop. Now there's nothing going on. So, because it was logging a bunch of stuff. Terminating element, possibly not prepared for termination. Oh, that's fine. So if I stop this now. So it felt like it was triggering earlier on, but maybe this is too specific.
Yeah, I mean, it sends notifications, but...
Actually, I think the notification format might also just... Wait, audiometer, it doesn't... I'm not sure. Since the message was just underrun, this would be just measurement.
I would think so, but I have the docs right in front of me. It says really like audiometer and then a tuple measurement. But
yeah, so that's what they send as the notification to, I think, the internals. But that's not what we get. I think the element value will contain audiometer. So let's see. Do we get any action here? No?
No. Can you quickly log anything quick, whatever it's notifying? So we see a little bit the function headers.
also about time to wrap up. I really want to
need to get this going
one going before.
Underrun. Okay.
Oh, there's something. And there it crashed. Okay, cool. So it goes underrun a lot.
And then there's giant
toilet overflow.
Map. Okay.
I wonder what a toilet overflow is in this context. To have control over amount of buffers being produced, consider using pull mode.
So, but the underrun means that it doesn't have enough data to compute the audio level inside the interval.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an underlying reason for that it doesn't get the right thing to do anything with it, and that's why we don't get a notification.
Longer interval, maybe. Let's see. But there was a measurement that blurred by. I wonder what we need to do to avoid the crash, though.
Oh, wow, what there's some binaries.
Reach the size of 161, which is above the fail level when storing data from output working in push mode. Have control over them. Yeah. I would need to read up on how to resolve this part, but I definitely saw some measurement scroll by in this whole mess. I'm pretty sure I saw something that was measurement. It might have scrolled off the world, but
I'm just verifying what the port audio plugin sends to that thing, to the audio meter. Maybe it's not the right format.
Yeah. So I'm glad we started with something that worked. And I think we certainly learned some of what it takes to deal with this stuff. I do want to revisit getting these measurements because I think there's something fun to be done with live view there. But I think we'll have to revisit that at a later time. Maybe I'll end up doing a blog post on it. But I think it's still been a fair introduction to Membrane, so I think that's where we wrap it. Marcel, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, sure thing. It's been fun.
All right, that's me signing off. The video will be up on, I guess, YouTube and blog and stuff, so if you know of anyone that should be watching but isn't, let them know. All right, peace.